Joined here at this table by Doug Robinson, one of many Republican candidates for governor. You and your friends are, it's a big banquet table.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah, big banquet table at this point.
Here.
So you're one of several successful businessmen who are in the Republican field. If nominated, there's a good chance that you would face another successful businessman, Democrat Jared Polis, in the general election. So when that no longer becomes a distinguishing factor among candidates, why are you a name to know?
Yeah, so I'm a guy who's been lived in Colorado 22 years, moved here because of this amazing place where you could have business success and raise a family and be involved in the community. I've started a couple of nonprofits that have been successful. I've just had an ability to get things done. And as I look around Colorado, I see some challenges, long-term challenges that haven't been addressed. And I think I've got the ability to bring people together really from both sides of the aisle to say, okay, how do we continue to make Colorado this wonderful place to live? And how do we get ready for all these people that have moved here and that are going to move here so that it continues to be this amazing place for another decade or more. So I think my background, my leadership skills really set me apart from some of the others in the race.
Because on paper, it would seem that you have a pretty similar pedigree to a number of the other candidates. What did you see lacking in the field that said, I need to be in there?
So I saw an ability just to bring people together and to analyze problems and to solve them. And that's what I've done throughout my business career and in the nonprofits that I've been involved in as well. I started one called Kids Tech, which is I saw in my business career that a lot of kids didn't have the same opportunities as my kids, and I wanted them to learn technology skills in the classroom and after school. So we started this organization, been very successful. We've taught over 15,000 kids technology skills, and actually Jared Polis has come to some of our events and been involved with us. And then once Amendment 64 was passed, the legalization of marijuana, my wife and I said, listen, somebody's got to be looking out for our kids. We started an organization which has been a leader in the fight to basically make sure our kids are protected as this goes forward. So those skills, being down at the Capitol, seeing how things work, given me a confidence that I can really lead this state in a great direction.
Want to talk about your advocacy in the space of legal marijuana in just a moment. Unlike some of the candidates in the race, you don't have a legislative record or a governing record that people can point to and say, oh, I get a sense of where he comes down. Yeah. There are a lot of different views in the Republican Party these days.
Yeah.
Where is Doug Robinson? Where do you see yourself on the spectrum? I'm not going to hold you to account for anybody's view that you name here, but who do you look at and say, there's somebody who broadly reflects my mindset about the world?
Yeah, so I look at the other Republican business leaders. Actually, the two that I like the most are both named Doug.
Okay.
So Doug Ducey, governor of Arizona, Doug Bergstrom, governor of North Dakota.
Absolutely nobody is going to know who those guys are, but tell us why you find them to be somebody who's worthy of admiration politically.
They are both individuals who are successful in business, never were involved in politics before, first-time candidates, got elected, and are really getting things done. I mean, they are not looking through what has to happen from a political lens. How is this going to affect what I want to do down the road or what my next step is? They're like, okay, what do people care about and how can we solve problems? And so I've met both of those individuals. I've spent time with them. They've given me advice. I think there's a model here in Colorado that is working for business people that come from outside the system to be able to come in and really lead our state.
Interestingly, I didn't hear you name two other people with similar backgrounds, Governor Rick Scott of Florida and President Donald Trump. How do you assess how do you assess President Trump's performance to date so far?
So it's been mixed. So some of the things that he's done, I've absolutely commend. So number one is picking Neil Gorsuch as a Supreme Court nominee, Colorado homegrown boy, and I think he is absolutely the type of person that we need on the Supreme Court. I think it's fantastic. Some of the people that he's put in cabinet positions are doing an excellent job. It doesn't get covered in terms of rolling back regulation. And my favorite
Name one or two. Scott Pruitt, EPA?
Yeah, I would say Ryan Zinke is one. Ben Carson, what he's doing. My favorite example is in the General Services Administration. Just this last summer, they rolled back a regulation that all new software that the government bought had to be Y2K compliant. It was about time.
Understood.
17 years later.
Okay, you said it was mixed. What has President Trump done that you are not supportive of?
So some of his tweeting, some of the controversial style that he has, that's not my style. My style is to be more embrace people, understand where you have agreement, and then try to work on your differences. So some of those things I think are different.
Any policy differences with the president to date?
So policy differences. I mean, I'm like a lot of Republicans, I'm disappointed that we didn't get health care reform. Really looking expectantly to what's going to happen with tax reform. I think that could really help grow the economy and so on. So, some of the things that he said he was going to do, he hasn't done yet, but hopefully he will get those done.
Tom Tancredo was on this program talking about the idea that apparently he's a Republican again these days. It's tough to follow, but he's a Republican again.
That's what I understand.
He's talking about getting in the race because he feels that establishment Republicans in Colorado were not sufficiently supportive of the free speech rights of white nationalists or white supremacists, depending on how you want to describe them. Would it be a healthy thing if he got into this race and started raising the standard of white nationalism in the race?
Probably not. I mean, he's welcome to get in. I mean, we have a lot of candidates in, and I mean, let's have him come. And he's a very smart man, and obviously been in politics for a long time. I think we need to pull together, and that's more Colorado style, is to be less divisive. I was just at an event yesterday morning, and Democrats and Republicans together. We have a unique setup here. We have a requirement for a balanced budget every year, which forces people to get together and to work out compromises and to solve problems. And I tend to think that those strident views tend to polarize people rather than bring them together. We have some challenges that to me are really not that partisan, like fixing our infrastructure, building our roads and our water to support additional growth, making our education system better. I mean, we have this paradox where we're the second most highly educated state in terms of adults with bachelor's degrees, just behind Massachusetts. Yet most of those people have moved here, like you and I. You know what I mean? We're not doing so well with our own kids. We're 7th from the bottom in graduation rate. We have to do better. And then we have a drug problem that I think we need to address, and we can.
Let's talk about
those are
marijuana
nonpartisan issues.
Let's talk about marijuana policy. But
yeah.
One kind of qualifying question off the bat, this is just my own personal curiosity. Congressman Polis, who's running for governor as a Democrat, has welcomed the support of the marijuana industry, one of the first people in Congress to do so. Nobody in the marijuana industry is going to write a fat check to Doug Robinson. I understand that. But do you have any issue with Republican candidates taking money from Big Cannabis?
I do. So I saw, Jeff Hunt actually tweeted this last week. I don't know if you saw it, but for the first time, this is kind of where the industry, how it's come in Colorado, right? For 4 years,
He's from
I'm
Colorado
sure that
Christian University, for folks who don't follow it yet.
I'm sure the cannabis industry has been giving money to Republicans and so on. For the first time, the Republican PAC basically took money, did a fundraiser and so on. So I'd ask them to give that money back too. I think that this issue is still too important to our state to be able to be influenced by one side or the other. So yeah, I'm not going to take any money from the marijuana industry. I don't think I would get it anyways. But I think in the long run, some of the things that I'm proposing may be good for them.
Well, so let's dig into this. So you and your wife helped found Smart Colorado, which at times was the only oppositional voice when marijuana was legalized. Do you really want to relitigate legal marijuana in a governor's race? Is that where Colorado is right now?
No, and we're not going to do that. And I have no desire to do that. So 55% of the Coloradans said that we want this. And so it's here. And I don't see it going away. It is not a matter of whether it's legal. It is a matter of getting what we were promised in the making sure that the taxes that we thought we were going to collect, we do, making sure that the black market is smaller rather than larger, and educating our kids so that we don't have a whole generation of kids that are sidetracked or from marijuana. So it's not about relitigating. That's not my message. Okay. My message is let's make this industry work for Colorado.
You want to tighten up the medical marijuana system. You want to force people to have an existing relationship with the doctor from whom they get their medical card.
Right.
What percentage of the medical cards out there do you think are bogus, just people looking to avoid taxes?
I don't know. Nobody knows. But I'll just tell you a couple of statistics, right? So today there's over 100,000 red cards. When we started, before 64 was passed, there were about 6,000. The average age at the time was 61 and female. The average age today is in the low 30s and male. So, and even if you go and look on the sites, on the marijuana sites, a lot of them advertise, get your red card, save taxes. So I think there's a number of people. I don't know how many that is. The thing that we have to recognize too is that there are tests that are being done right now, and I would encourage more research that show that these products that are high in CBD and very low in THC can have therapeutic benefit. And they can help families that have kids with seizures or people that are, have cancer or other things. We should encourage more of that. That's going to help people. But those products, they're all called marijuana, are very different from these high potency dabbing and waxes and other things that are almost 70–80% pure THC. So we have to be able to differentiate.
Colorado voters approved medical marijuana. What is it the governor's business to tell people which medicine they choose?
Well, if they're in there, I think a lot of people are not using it for medical purposes. They're using it for recreational purposes. And I'd rather have those people in the recreational market. I'm not taking away their right, or wouldn't take away their right to use it, but let's have them pay the taxes that we thought we were getting.
Is the issue with the patients or the doctors?
Oh, it's with both. It's with the patients, but also the doctors. Not the vast majority of doctors in this state who are really thoughtful about what's appropriate for their patients, and we're going to let that happen, right? But there's a handful of doctors that really specialize in providing marijuana prescriptions, and those are the ones.
Why not go after those few rogue docs as opposed to putting a mandate on all medical marijuana patients that they need to have a different type of relationship with the doctor? If it's just a few bad docs, why not just go after them?
We're going to go after them too. So,
okay.
But I think this is something that would force doctors to say, okay, and it doesn't mean that these people can't consume marijuana. They just, if it's not an appropriate medical therapy for them, they're going to be going to the recreational side of the shop. And most shops are both.
And they're going to pay a lot more taxes over there.
They're going to pay higher taxes, and we're going to get the benefit of that. And we're going to use that in a way that's going to benefit others in the state.
Last question on this. Top bullet point on your plan to reform the medical marijuana system talks about increased revenue. Yet you acknowledge you have no idea what percentage of these cards are bogus, what percentage of people would go into the higher tax system. So we have no idea what that amount of revenue is, right? It's just some kind of revenue. How can you make promises based off of this nebulous revenue amount? That seems like the problem with the existing system. People were promised pie in the sky. They thought the revenue would fix everything, and it's not there in the end.
I'm not making any promises.
Okay.
I'm saying that this is a problem that we should address, and that we should get those people that are using marijuana for recreational purposes. They have a right to do it. It's a constitutional right. Let's have them pay the taxes that we thought that they were going to be paying. And let's have those that are using it for pure, real medical reasons, that have real conditions where their doctor says this is going to be therapeutic. They continue to be there. The tax differential is very large, as you know, and they can continue to get their, in essence, subsidized product. And the others should pay the taxes that, and we can use that money, and I don't know how much it is. I mean, in the scope of the $28 billion state budget, it's going to be, tens of millions, or maybe 50 or 100 or something, you know what I mean? It's not going to be huge, but every dollar, we need every dollar that we can get to solve the challenges that we have in Colorado.
There are a lot of interesting things happening in this race and in this state besides marijuana. I look forward to having you back for discussions on that. Doug Robinson, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Kyle.